Most of the time when you're dealing with supply and demand analysis, we are dealing with what we call free markets. In other words, these markets are allowed to adjust price and quantity as they need to go in and achieve their equilibrium. So again, here is our downward sloping demand curve, here is our upward sloping supply curve, and if the market is working efficiently, we should come to an equilibrium price, we'll call that P naught, and we should have an equilibrium quantity, we're going to call that Q naught, however many units that might be. What we've already seen is if the price is above equilibrium, we're going to end up with the quantity supplied greater than quantity being demanded, and thus that will put downward pressure on the price. If we have a price that is below equilibrium, then the quantity that's being demanded is greater than the quantity that's being supplied, and therefore upward pressure is put on the price. So the price is allowed to vary to try to achieve equilibrium, to try to achieve a fair market value for the good. However, there are times where the market does not seem to do a good job at setting either the price or the quantity of these particular goods. In other words, let's go in and take an example of the market for corn. So we have the price of corn here, we have the quantity of corn down here. Now, if you let the market do what it needs to do, we have a downward sloping demand curve for corn, and we have an upward sloping supply curve of corn, so there are your farmers, right? The supply curve would be your farmers, who are going out and producing the corn and selling it on the open market. Now let's just assume that given everything the market knows about the number of farmers, the price of substitutes, wheat, soybeans, right, and so on, let's just say the market says that the going market price for this corn should be $3 a bushel. And at $3, there will be an equilibrium quantity of corn that will be bought and sold, however many millions of bushels that might be. The idea is if the government comes in and looks at this price of $3 and says, you know, we understand that is what the market says corn should be selling for, but if we allow corn to sell for $3 per bushel, a lot of farmers are not going to be able to make a profit because of high fuel prices, high input prices, high cost of land, and so on, and a lot of farmers are going to go out of business. Therefore, the government could go in and install what is called a price floor in this market. And a price floor is a legally established minimum price. A legally established minimum price. So I want you to remember that a price floor is something you can't go below. Right? Think of the floor below you, you can't go below it. So this is what we know as a farm price support. So the idea now is, let's say if the government doesn't believe that $3 per bushel is fair, they might go in and put in a price floor at, let's say, $4.50 per bushel. Now, I'm going to go in and I'm going to draw a line all the way across this because that is now a law that has been established, which means that you can buy and sell corn for anything above $4.50 per bushel. That is okay. But anything below $4.50 per bushel is simply out of the question, is simply illegal. And so you notice in this case our price is below the price floor, so therefore the price of $3 cannot prevail, and therefore the price is automatically lifted up to $4.50 per bushel. Well, I want you to notice that $4.50 per bushel, if you follow that line across, the first curve you hit is your demand curve. So that is going to be the amount that demanders would be willing and able to buy. If you follow this line across, where it strikes your supply curve, that is going to be your quantity that's being supplied. All right, so that's the amount that sellers would be willing and able to sell. But notice what has happened is, because the price floor was put in above equilibrium, we now have a situation where the quantity that is being supplied is greater than the quantity that is being demanded. And so, therefore, we have a surplus of corn in the market. And you notice in this case, it's a relatively large surplus. It's the difference between the distance between the demand and the supply curves at the going market price, which at this particular time is $4.50 per bushel.